The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected. President Trump will soon be face-to-face with Russia's President Vladimir Putin in Alaska. What Trump is now saying about the odds that their meeting won't go well. Then, Florida is doubling down on deportation efforts in the face of controversy over alligator Alcatraz, the new step the governor is taking on immigration. Then, electricity costs are skyrocketing. The reasons Americans' electric bills are going up besides inflation. This is the National News Desk, America's News Now. I'm Dee Gatton, and right now, President Trump appears optimistic as he prepares to meet with Russian President Putin in Alaska tomorrow. Trump says he believes it will be a good meeting, but his goal here is to set the stage for a second meeting that also involves Ukrainian President Zelensky. Trump says he thinks the two leaders are ready to make peace, but there is a 25% chance tomorrow's summit will not be successful. The National News Desk, Atra El-Nashar reports.
It's perhaps the most critical summit between foreign leaders in recent memory. What happens between President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska Friday could impact Ukraine or much of Eastern Europe for years to come.
I believe now he's convinced that he's going to make a deal. He's going to make a deal. I think he's going to, and we're going to find out. I'm going to know very quickly.
It's been 7 years since Putin and Trump have seen each other in person, and 10 years since Putin has stepped foot on American soil.
The current American administration, which as everyone knows is making, in my opinion, quite energetic and sincere efforts to stop the hostilities, stop the crisis, and reach agreements that are of interest to all parties involved.
But it was just Tuesday that Putin spoke with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, who sent his own soldiers to fight alongside the Russians in their invasion of Ukraine. The Kremlin says on the call, Putin thanked Kim for this and that the two discussed Putin's upcoming summit with Trump. A provocative move by Putin, who many warn is just stringing Trump along to buy time.
You can't believe anything Vladimir Putin says. He is a former KGB agent who is trained in manipulation.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and NATO allies are imploring Trump to make no decisions about Ukraine without Ukraine, after he suggested Ukraine will have to give up territory in order to see an end to this war. Secretary of State Marco Rubio sending a slightly different message Thursday.
To achieve a peace, I think we all recognize that there'll have to be some conversation about security guarantees. There'll have to be some conversation about territorial disputes and claims and what they're fighting over.
But Trump recognizes talks may not get that far.
And if it's a bad meeting, it'll end very quickly. And if it's a good meeting, we're going to end up getting peace in the pretty near future.
The president says if the meeting is successful, he and Putin will hold a joint press conference. If not, Trump will speak to reporters on his own before heading back to the White House. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar reporting.
All 800 National Guard troops President Trump called for are now operating in Washington, D.C. They are unarmed, supporting other federal and local law enforcement for Trump's crime crackdown. The city's police chief has ordered more cooperation among officers, including allowing local police to share information with immigration agencies about people who are not in custody. And you can see right here a tractor clearing out a homeless encampment in D.C. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says officials are enforcing homeless encampment laws to help make the city safe and beautiful. She adds people are being given the option to be taken to a homeless shelter and offered addiction or mental health services. If they refuse, they could face fines or jail time. Critics argue the campaign is not a long-term solution. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says his state is planning to open a second immigration detention facility called Deportation Depot. It'll be located at the Florida Baker Correctional Institution near Jacksonville, housing up to 1,300 migrants. Florida officials say it could take 2 to 3 weeks to get the facility operational.
Reason of this is not to just house people indefinitely. We want to process, stage, and then return illegal aliens to their home country. That is the name of the game.
Tennessee quadruple murder suspect Austin Drummond appeared in court today. The judge refusing to grant his request to speak to his girlfriend, who's related to the victims. Drummond is due back in court on September 4th. The state plans to seek the death penalty for family members. They were killed on July 29th in Tiptonville, leading to a week-long manhunt. The man accused of the double homicide at Devil's Den State Park in Arkansas has pleaded not guilty to capital murder. Former teacher Andrew McGann is accused of fatally stabbing Clinton and Kristen Brink on July 26 on a trail. McGann is being held without bond at his arraignment hearing today. His next court date was scheduled for November 14th. Tonight, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, has released emails she says show how top officials under President Obama demanded the intelligence community, quote, fall in line behind the Russia hoax. It's a charge those in the spotlight deny, as our Christine Frizzell reports.
On the intelligence community's assessment of Russian involvement in the 2016 election, new declassified emails reveal a desire for unified support. A 2016 email just made public by the Director of National Intelligence reveals James Clapper writing, "It is essential that we be on the same page in the highest tradition of that's our story, and we're sticking to it." This despite concerns from then NSA Director Mike Rogers about a lack of access to the intelligence and a lack of time to review it, writing, "Given the expedited nature, his folks weren't, quote, fully comfortable to be absolutely confident in their assessments." Clapper responding, "We may have to compromise our normal modalities," adding, "More time is not negotiable." These emails, just the latest tranche of documents to be declassified as part of what White House officials have labeled the, quote, Russia hoax.
There was a whole scheme to try and demean Trump so that I couldn't win an election. And that is a criminal group of people. They're sick people. And they're criminals, and they should be taken care of.
Look, this is what we thought was going on all along. This is the deep state coordinating and colluding with the liberal media to create false narratives that would hurt President Trump and other Republicans.
The question, though, for some, if the actions by Obama intelligence officials were taken simply for national security reasons, as those involved in meetings at the time have denied politics were at play.
The assessment made no judgment about whether or not these Russian influence operations had any impact on the outcome of the election. We didn't go there at all. We also didn't include in the assessment any reference to collusion.
One question, whether these just released emails will factor into grand jury deliberations reportedly underway at the Justice Department. Dee Dee?
Christine, is it clear that these emails prove anything explicitly the Trump administration has said about deep state or a weaponized government?
I mean, in short, no. They reveal what intelligence officials were discussing at the time. In this case, there was a concern about endorsing an assessment with not a lot of time. That's important, as is the idea that the former Director of Intelligence, James Clapper, suggested sort of bending the rules. But what we haven't seen is any explicit mention of deliberately targeting Donald Trump for political purposes.
All right, live from Washington, D.C., Christine Frizzell, thank you. Producer prices surged in July, according to a Labor Department report out today. The Producer Price Index, which measures inflation before it hits shoppers, was up nearly 1% last month from June, and it was up 3.3% from a year ago. Those numbers are higher than economists expected. Electricity prices, you may have noticed, are soaring. They're up 5.5% year over year, higher than the average inflation rate. And the Energy Information Administration says from 2021 to 2024, the average utility bill for a U.S. consumer increased $22. Reasons include inflation, more energy consuming data centers, and the need for infrastructure upgrades. The number of Americans applying for unemployment benefits is down. As of last week, applications, they fell to 224,000. That's below what economists had predicted. Applications, they remain historically low since the economy has come back from the pandemic in 2020. Now, the total number of people collecting benefits, that also dropped in the latest data to 1.95 million. The average rate on a 30-year mortgage, that's down to 6.58% this week, the lowest level since October, according to Freddie Mac. Last week's average was 6.63%. Freddie Mac's chief economist says Purchase application activity is improving as borrowers take advantage of the decline. California Governor Gavin Newsom is calling for a November 4th special election on new congressional maps. However, he says the maps will only take effect if Texas moves forward with President Trump's redistricting push. Listen.
It's not good enough to just hold hands, have a candlelight vigil, and talk about the way the world should be. We have got to recognize the cards that have been dealt, and we have got to meet fire with fire.
California leaders aim to release their proposed maps tomorrow. Meanwhile, Texas Democrats, remember, who left their state to stop a vote on new maps there, say they'll return once the Republicans end the special session tomorrow and California introduces its maps. Coming up, what President Trump promised to Social Security recipients today on the 90th anniversary of the program's creation. Plus, the latest in the investigation of a school bus crash near Austin, Texas this week that sent multiple people to the hospital. And later, the aggressive collection practices that complicate the medical debt problem that 40% of Americans are facing. We'll be right back. Today is the 90th birthday of the Social Security Act signed by President Franklin D. Roosevelt. President Trump is marking the anniversary by touting changes his administration has made to the program, including removing most taxes on it as part of his so-called One Big Beautiful Bill.
We're going to make America's seniors every single day. We're going to fight for them. We're going to make them richer, better, stronger in so many different ways. But Social Security is like pretty much the one that we think about. And we love it, and we love what's happening with it. And it's going to be good for 90 years and beyond.
Trump says the safety net program for people older than 65 needs reform. It won't have enough funds to pay full benefits in less than a decade and accounts for much of the nation's climbing debt. The White House claims to have found fraud, waste, and abuse in the program. Trump maintains he won't cut any benefits, but Democrats argue Trump and his allies will gut Social Security. Republican-led states may be adopting liberal policies even under conservative leadership. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins joins us from Washington with more on a new report digging into what the report's authors call a shadow government.
Red states, even ones with Republican governors and legislatures, are reportedly, quietly, advancing progressive policies. A new report from a conservative group called the State Leadership Initiative, or SLI, claims it's happening through unelected national associations of state bureaucrats. We spoke with Noah Wall, president and founder of SLI.
What we found that was concerning was that every single organization that we investigated had politicized their organizations with woke ideology.
SLI examined more than 20 of these organizations, finding pushes for diversity, equity, and inclusion, environmental, social, and governance standards, and gender-based policies, even in states where voters reject those ideas.
Uniformly pushing the same ideology in Republican and Democrat states alike. Texas having indistinguishable policies from, say, California or Indiana.
For example, the National Association of State Boards of Education has supported gender-inclusive curriculum and pronoun policies. Nearly every function of state government has a national professional organization that often set nationwide standards for best operating practices. Wall argues many of these organizations adhere to advancing progressive priorities.
What we're seeing is that this is not politically neutral. They label themselves as bipartisan, but effectively they are very partisan and they are all left-leaning.
One of the professional associations did get back to us, denouncing the report, telling me they did have a DEI committee a few years ago, but they don't currently have one. They also said that committee was bipartisan and did not offer any official policies or guidance, simply serving as a forum for discussion on the topic for those who wanted to participate. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
Tropical storm Erin is expected to become the first Atlantic hurricane of the 2025 season. Tomorrow, forecasters say Erin is a few hundred miles east of the northern Leeward Islands with maximum, you see, the sustained winds of 60 miles per hour. The Leeward Islands, Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico could see flash flooding and landslides this weekend. Further impacts are still unclear. Meantime, over 700 wildfires continue to burn in Canada, sending smoke down to the U.S. The Canadian Interagency Fire Center lists over 470 fires as out of control. Reduced air quality is lingering in the Midwest today. You can see it right there on your screen. Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, they're getting hit the hardest. Republican lawmakers are demanding Canada to do more to prevent the fires. Michigan Congress members put out a statement saying their residents are breathing hazardous air because Canada has failed to control the situation. Republicans in several other states also called for better forest management. This week, Canada announced new wildfire prevention funding, but also blamed climate change. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. We are taking the pulse of America, and we start in Seattle, where a prisoner managed to escape from police custody at SeaTac Airport.
20-year-old John Nino back in custody less than 24 hours after he became a wanted man. He's not just the guy who escaped custody at SeaTac Airport. The prisoner transfer is the third escapee in 3 months at SeaTac. He gave DOC officers the slip Tuesday night at the airport's garage, fled across a sky bridge, and was last seen headed towards Highway 99.
How did he get away?
Still looking into that at this point.
The DOC's Christopher Wright said Nino was cuffed at the time, but it appears one of his hands is free.
Thankfully, incidents like this are rare.
Wright says this is their first DOC escapee here in about a year. They handle 250 a year at SeaTac.
But I think if you're a SeaTac passenger, you're looking at the last 3 months, and we've had 3 prison transfers where 3 prisoners escaped. So the question becomes, what do we do about it? And it doesn't feel that rare.
That's true. This is the first one involving DOC. The other 2, I believe, it was a private company and then an ICE individual earlier this year. But yeah, understandably, that would be a concern among passengers at the airport.
At the end of the day, this is something that will change. It's simply a question of when. And it's just deeply disappointing that the school board is overreaching and not recognizing that they're out of touch with West Virginia.
Governor Morrissey doubling down on his comments on the board and continuing to say that allowing for religious exemptions through executive order is an extension of a 2023 religious freedom law. He says overlaying the vaccine law and the religious freedom law allows for the exemptions. This matter has already had a day in court in Raleigh County as the judge ruled in favor of allowing for religious exemptions, but only for the 3 students who brought the suit. The next court hearing in Raleigh County is for a permanent injunction in September, but an appeal could cancel that hearing. The state board has not yet officially filed one.
You're violating a governor's order, a judge's ruling, and the Equal Protection for Religion Act, passed by our legislature to prevent exactly this kind of discrimination.
It was a scary end to the first day of school for 42 students from Baghdad Elementary School and their veteran bus driver when the bus taking them home rolled over on Nameless Road in Travis County, ending up on its side.
Upon arriving on scene, our paramedics and firefighters and police officers identified 43 total patients from the collision. Of those, 12 needed transport.
They were taken to area hospitals, some by Starflight due to the distance between rural Leander and the hospitals.
We want each of those students and their families to know that our prayers are with them.
Leander ISD Superintendent Bruce Gearing told reporters the district will offer assistance to students and families affected by the crash. The Texas Department of Public Safety says the bus is a 2024 model and came equipped with seatbelts. The bus had just left Baghdad Elementary when the crash happened, and the investigation to determine the cause is underway.
Coming up, what you can do if you're facing aggressive debt collection from a medical provider. We're back in 90 seconds. Medical debt is an epidemic in America, impacting nearly 100 million people nationwide, about 4 out of 10 adults. As Spotlight on America national investigative correspondent Angie Moreski found, it's a problem complicated by aggressive collection practices, despite medical bills often riddled with mistakes.
Damon Carson was among thousands of patients sued over the past several years by UC Health, one of Colorado's largest healthcare systems.
What was it like for you to go through this?
A very frustrating experience dealing with big business and big medicine.
Damon and his wife Tracy were surprised to get a bill from UC Health for nearly $5,000 because Damon got an estimate for just about $1,500, which they paid for an endoscopy to address a swallowing issue he had.
So you did your due diligence.
Well, I thought we did. And I feel like there was not full disclosure on what this procedure could end up costing.
Making matters worse, they say the bills were hard to follow, even for Tracy, who's an accountant.
It was very confusing to even understand what we had paid, which was for the procedure, was then being applied to different places. So nothing made sense.
Stuck my foot in the ground, if you will, and just said, I don't think this was fair. I called around, I got the estimates. I'm not going to pay this.
A few months later, they were hit with a lawsuit from a collection agency on behalf of the hospital. It's more common than you might think. Studies show 2/3 of hospitals have policies allowing lawsuits and other legal action to collect patient debt.
I think this is deeply unfair to patients, and it's among the biggest problems in current healthcare policy.
George Washington University law professor Barack Richmond has studied aggressive collection practices by healthcare providers in 5 states, including Colorado.
We're charging too much for healthcare. We're not telling people how much those prices are. They get into debt accidentally.
His recent study in Colorado found bills often riddled with errors.
An extraordinary percentage, a shocking percentage of medical bills are just wrong.
It's estimated some 80% of medical bills include mistakes. And Richmond says another troubling finding, something the study called stealth intermediaries, where hospitals use third parties to sue patients, keeping their name off the suit, just like the one against Damon Carson.
We call them stealth intermediaries for a reason. They're using these intermediaries to hide themselves.
Following criticism citing a lack of transparency, the Colorado State Legislature passed a new law last year requiring hospitals to include their names on suits against patients. Spotlight contacted UC Health for comment, but they did not respond. You've been fighting for this for a long time.
9 years.
9 years.
9 years.
Cynthia Fisher is founder of PatientRightsAdvocate.org and fights to get more price transparency for patients.
You think price transparency could help?
Absolutely. It works in every other market in our economy. There is no other place where we don't have prices before we make a purchase.
The Carsons ended up settling their case with UC Health, paying a reduced amount, but still more than the original estimate.
At every turn, you have to advocate for yourself, and they don't make it easy for you to do that.
For Spotlight on America, I'm Angie Moreski.
And Spotlight on America will have more information for you on what you can do if you're facing aggressive collection practices from a medical provider. Just head over to spotlightinvestigates.com and click on this story. Coming up, the ladders that are being recalled because of a serious fall risk. We'll explain right after this. Over 122,000 ladders are now being recalled because of a fall hazard. Take a look at the image right here. The locking mechanism on the Werner 20-foot and 24-foot Multi-Max Pro multi-purpose ladders. They can jam. At least 18 falls have been reported as we pull this up in full. That includes 14 with injuries. They were sold nationwide at Home Depot from 2021 to 24. Owners should stop using them immediately. The company is offering a refund. And that is going to do it for us for this edition of the National News Desk. We invite you to join us again this evening as we cover the meeting with Trump and Putin in Alaska. Much more on that tonight at 10. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. Thanks for watching. We'll see you.